Hello and welcome back to For the Record, where Stans talk all things bands. This episode is brought to you by Musicality. I am your host and back by popular demand, I am joined by Jenna and Zoe. On today's episode, we are talking all things camping culture. Okay, what is your opinion on camping culture? That's like a really broad question, but try and sum it up.
We could get deep with this one.
All right. So
where to start?
Yeah. I think it can get a bit ridiculous sometimes.
Like 3 weeks?
To say no, because now I don't know how true this is, but during like when One Direction was a thing, I saw this one TikTok, this girl, I think she camped for 3 months.
You have to stink.
Which is understandable because it's One Direction.
but at the same time, it's really
I
not.
I don't think that's...
That's outrageous. Within those 3 months, so many artists are going to have performed at that venue.
And also, I'd like to point out the fact that do you not have a job? And why are why are you willingly making yourself homeless?
I know.
It's so true.
It's just, I think it's a bit crazy. But I think camping for 2 nights or a couple nights, however, I think that's all right. Just as long as you're like making sure you're clean
and like have a hotel to go back to,
not weeing inside a pit just because you're that desperate, or weeing in the side of the road. I just think as long as you have a hotel and camping, and then you can take shifts with you and your friends.
You look like you have something bursting to say.
Go on.
I just think that there should be a limit. And I know venues try to limit what goes on with camping, but it's so difficult to enforce because, you know, you can't forcibly remove someone from the premises if they're outside of a venue.
Because there's no premises there.
Yeah. Well, no, but technically they're still on premises, but because they're not doing anything wrong, they can't be removed by the police or anything.
Yeah.
So I think that people do take it way too far. There is times when people fight over camping spots, and I can understand why people do it. That's the thing, is it's not an insane concept, and I can get it, but I also just think that we take it far too seriously sometimes as fans in terms of the lengths that people will go to, like you say, camping for up to like a week or so before. Like, that's not safe. Like, your own safety needs to be taken into account. Your own health needs to be taken into account.
Specifically if it's winter,
but even in the height of summer when people were camping for the European shows and they were getting dehydrated and fainting at the show, why are you going to put yourself through that only to get into the venue, to be in the pit, have to stand there again for another 2 hours whilst the rest of the venue fills up, to then faint halfway through the show? Like, it's not worth it.
And then it's just, you've done it for nothing.
Yeah, and then it's an issue for yourself. It's an issue for the artist and for the security team. You know, like, you're causing more issues than you're saving by queuing to get a barricade, which I also think can be overrated. But that's a different conversation.
I mean, all the Americans.
Let's not talk about residency.
Kind of, wherever you are in the venue, if you genuinely love that artist, I think you are going to enjoy it from wherever. And I don't think you have to get barricade every single time. Leave that for other people. Yeah, get barricade once or twice. Yeah. But I think other people need to experience that as well. And also, I think we've spoke a lot about Louis Tomlinson in this podcast.
I know, I was going to bring him up again.
But I think with him, he had some shows in London. They were just like a lot more intimate.
Can I bring in my
shows.
question? Because it will help answer this.
Yeah.
What do you think should happen to those who have camped against venue rules?
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So with Louis, the venue had asked for people not to camp because it had been snowing, it had been windy, it had been raining, it had been
like
unsafe weather conditions.
Unsafe to be outside, but I mind sleep
let
outside.
Let alone sleeping So what happened is all the people that had shown up or had been camping are at the front. Then people that had shown up since 9 o'clock in the morning, and then people that had shown up a couple hours before the show, they did it where the people that had showed up the most recently, they went in first, and the campers went in last. And I think that's good, because if you have especially been told not to camp, because for your health, otherwise the show could be postponed, you are putting other people's experience in like
at jeopardy,
and then also you're just harming yourself because you're in such unsafe situations.
But also the venue lied about that. What you said, they had the campers got wristbands saying they camped. The people who arrived at like 9 o'clock, the first like 100 got wristbands, but then they let in the first 100, stopped giving out wristbands, and then campers went in before everyone else. So even they were like, oh yeah, if you're going in, if you've camped, you're not going in, they still then let them in.
They weren't enforcing the rule for everybody. That's something that does tend to stress me out about queuing for a concert. So
I just venue security and not concert
in
goers.
general, they don't understand. They try and come at it from like an event security perspective, like you would for like a football game, rather than a concert. Whereas I've had experience, for example, when I went to see Thomas Hedon, I had queued from like 2:00 in the afternoon, which isn't crazy early, but it was a smaller venue, smaller show, less fans. I'd queued from like 2:00 in the afternoon. I was maybe like the 30th person in line, and it got to like 45 minutes before doors opened, and they split the queue in half. So the back half then came forward towards the venue and queued with everyone who had been there since like 9 a.m. that morning, and they let both queues in at the same time. And that's what upsets me about venue staff, is I know that you've both had this experience happen, but even worse, in a situation where they don't understand that it's not like people have queued overnight for this artist. It's people who have queued there all day. So it's not like they've broken any sort of venue rule. They've not been, they've not been disruptive. They've not hurt anybody. Why are you then going to let people who have queued for 9+ hours have to go in at the same time as people who've been there for 30 minutes? I don't get it. Like, I understand from a security perspective, it's get the fans in, get the show started. But from a fan perspective, it gets so upsetting and frustrating, like, I've paid money to be here. I've waited and spent my time being here, and you're going to let someone who doesn't really care that much, who got here 20 minutes ago, go in before me? No.
Yeah, I mean,
you can speak about our Alexander 23 experience.
I mean,
time for a quick message from today's sponsor. Make the move to Musicality to stream all your favourite artists' music. Whether you are by the beach or studying in your bedroom, Musicality works wherever you are. Musicality is the platform streaming service that was made by fans for fans.
So
this episode might be longer than 10 minutes.
Me and Soph went and saw a small artist, Alexander 23, and the venue was really small. There wasn't really any balconies.
There's a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
Was it in the Institute building?
But the smaller.
The smaller,
room.
yeah. So we had been queuing since 9 o'clock, and I was number 1, Sophie was number 2. We got there at the same time, so it doesn't really matter those numbers. But we were the first in the queue. We were first there, and then two other friends came and joined us, and we were there together for about until like 1 o'clock
before people joined.
Before just a couple other people
there
really
was like
started
15.
to join. But yeah, and then at like 5 o'clock, 2 hours before the show, some people started coming, and but what we had been told is this security guard, I went, is there O2 priority for this artist? There wasn't, but he said there was. And I think that's where we've got a mix up here, because he doesn't know what's actually going on, and I think that's not good, because it's wrong people
he
getting
should know
employed.
what's happening.
They've not been briefed.
So he said, there's O2
on
priority. There was 2 different artists playing at the same time in the different rooms in there. So he said, this over here is general, over here is O2.
Like
and
other side of the
here-
building.
Yeah, and then this side of the building is for O2 priority for the artist that is over on this side, and also for the other artist. So we went and queued for O2. And then around 7 o'clock, which is when we were to come in, there was a bigger queue. And they started like checking bags and stuff of the general admissions. And I went and talked to a security guard. I went, excuse me.
You've got a fucking problem.
This isn't like we've been here since 9 o'clock. And we got told this is O2 priority. So we need to go in first. Please do not let them in. I asked really nicely, and everyone else that was in the queue with us asked really nicely, because we know that sometimes there can be muddle-ups. So he went and talked to his manager, who was outside, and the manager went, guys, don't let this queue in, because O2 priority need to go in.
Bear in mind, like 10 people had already gone in by that point.
Yeah. Then these people start going in, and we're going, no, you need to stop them. So then the manager goes, stop. The line had stopped, but there had been 20 people that had already gone in. And I think I just got so frustrated, because
I was yelling, you were
I'd
crying.
been queuing there since 9 o'clock till 7 o'clock. That's so many hours to be queuing. And I was just there, and I just started crying, because I just was so frustrated. I guess I was upset, but it was more frustration.
And the people at the front of GA hadn't even been there since 5.
I was trying to tell the man, the security guard, I was going, excuse me, you don't understand what's happened here. We've been queuing here since 9 o'clock, right? 10 hours. They've been queuing here for at least 2 hours.
It was you were going to get in the venue.
2 hours. right? And
That's
he was going,
the worst responses.
going,
You're all
yeah.
going to see the same show. Like, why does it matter where you stand?
You're all going to see the same show. You need to stop crying. You need to shush because then you're not going to get in faster. First of all, that's extremely rude.
Yeah.
And second of all, we've
and it's
been here.
always grown ass men.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
never the female security guards that
Yeah.
give you that kind of attitude. It's always the grown men.
No, but also there was like 2 female securities, and you could tell one of them was new. And the manager was so fucking mean to her. Was like throwing her the stuff and like, you better do your job. And she was like clearly new, hadn't done it maybe once or twice before. And I'm like, don't yell at her to how to do her job when you've clearly not trained her how to do it.
I think what's happened is that they think they're so superior just because they work at this.
Just
place.
because they're grown
They
adults and we're kids.
They don't want to listen. They don't want to hear you out. And we were here saying we've been here for so long that's like actually unfair. We got in and we did get barricade, but we were right by a speaker.
Rejoice.
Yeah, we got no view.
No, that's true.
You was a fucking speaker, and I was so frustrated. I was like, what is going on? I can't see the artist like here. 1, I'm short. 2, there's a fucking speaker
Claim your
right
height.
in front of me. Yeah. Anyway, so
Be
one of
proud
the
of the
people
height.
Of what's there.
one of the people that was with us, and she went and talked to these 2 boys.
I love Rio.
Right, get right centre of the stage, but it's just to get to that point, it was just too much.
Yeah.
And
It was
it's
painful.
quite overwhelming.
I've got another
Sorry,
question.
I rambled on a bit there.
I'd just like to say, to add on to what I said earlier about there being like that it's unacceptable that people who have only just turned up should go in before people who've been queuing. I do think there's exceptions to that.
Yeah.
So like I can understand from a perspective of, for example, when we go see Harry in June in Coventry, it's going to be a difficult thing for us to navigate where we're going to be in front pitch because we've got different people arriving at different times due to different circumstances. So I can understand if you have an obligation like school or work and you can't get to the venue till 45 minutes beforehand, it sucks that it means you're probably going to have to stand at the back. And it doesn't mean that you're any less of a fan because you turned up later that you don't want to be at the front. However, it should be honoured, that kind of queuing system should be honoured, that the people who have queued beforehand should get in first. So I'd like to say it's not a case of that people who turn up late are any less of a fan and don't deserve to be closer to the front. It's just a case of it's upsetting that sometimes circumstances don't work. Yeah,
and I also think that
I just felt bad that I'd said that, being like, people who turn up late aren't fans. Like, that's not what I meant.
yeah, and I also think that
I've been thinking about that the whole time Jenna was speaking, like overthinking that.
I really fucked up.
No,
I think there is ever a time when camping overnight should be encouraged.
No, there we go.
Yeah, I did think that
End of
was a
episode.
really straightforward answer.
I think it should be encouraged, but I think it's all right if people do camp overnight. I understand that, but not for a long period of time.
Yeah, no, definitely shouldn't be encouraged, especially by a venue or an artist. Absolutely not. Or by other fans, actually.
Yeah, it's like, can you imagine an artist going, guys, camp for
Jack
me.
queuing, babes.
Guys, it's the
Who's gonna see me
it's the
first?
8th of April, and my show's in the 4th of June. Come on,
Literally.
It's like 2
Literally.
Jesus Christ.
Oh.
That's all we have time for in today's episode. Thanks again for today's sponsor, Musicality, and the guests, Jenna and Zoe.